What's that, everybody? It's that time again. We're doing a listens of the month for March this time. If you're new here, we go over the albums and EPs that I listened to in their entirety throughout the duration of the most recent month. At this point, it's April now, so we're going to go over March. Going to go over what I kept track of and just run through, discuss the music a little bit, because that's what I love to do. I love music, and see if you feel the same way. See if you listened to these albums before. Let me know what you think down in the comments. It's real brief. I mean, as brief as I can make each listen, I guess you could say. So we're just gonna jump right into it and get started. So we're gonna do this, and bam. Here we go. To start off, Primus's debut. Well, their first official debut. I think "Suck on This" was their actual first music, but regardless, Frizzle Fry. This album's great. It was my first time actually listening to it from front to back, and it's really good. Too Many Puppies is easily one of my favorite Primus tracks. Every song on here is pretty solid, honestly. Love John the Fisherman. It's a great debut that basically shows what they're all about, right off the bat. Love it. We have Behemoth and Storming Near the Baltic. Really solid black metal album. Really nothing stands out too much about it. I don't really remember too much from it. I think the production is kind of shaky, but of course it's black metal. Nothing too special, I guess you could say. And next we have this is just a placeholder, the cover for the Snake Eyes single for the EP from Disperser, CA, a local band from where I'm at, some homies, and their EP Burning at Both Ends. Give it another listen, because around this time I was actually seeing them with another band I'm about to get to, and it just slaps. All 4 songs on the EP are just straight up bangers, straight up ragers. Please go check it out. We have Ends of Sanity. I believe this was this came up on artist radio, I believe, and I liked what I was hearing. Just straight up hardcore, real brutal stuff. I remember liking it a lot, for sure. Ends of Sanity, self-titled, it's good. We have Brainless. This was the band that I was seeing Disperser with, and awesome show all around. This is their demo 2022, and it slaps. It's honestly pretty good. It's solid for what it is, and they put on a good show. Next up is classic Chimera, The Impossibility of Reason. This was my first time actually going through this entire album, and it's really damn good. Honestly, it holds up and it deserves all the praise it gets. Very, very heavy metalcore, straight to your face. Killer songs, Power Trip, Pure Hatred, the title track, Pictures in the Gold Room. Really enjoyed this one for sure. Then one that I strongly recommend every time I have the possibility of coming across it, Whitechapel and their album The Valley. I get to see them play this entire album from front to back in about a month, and it's really, really good. I just over the years since it was released, almost 4 years, 4 years to the day, just about. It has just grown on me over the years, so very much. To the point where it's my favorite Whitechapel album, and for good reason. It's so good. The production is amazing. The songs are great. I can really just go on and on about this album. I've talked about it before because I have listened to it before in these Listens of the Month videos. I've gone over it. Yeah, just listen to it. It's friggin' awesome. And we got a lot of Full of Hell this month because I went to see them. We'll get more into that. But Full of Hell and Merzbow. Yeah, just grindcore, crazy, friggin' insane, chaotic release for sure. Not as captivating as other releases, in my opinion, but it's still just a chaotic what the fest for sure. Then we have Mac Miller and Good AM. I listened to this more than once throughout the month of March because I was, this is one of the few releases from that I was really trying to familiarize myself with, and honestly, it's awesome. It's a fantastic album, really solid from front to back. Not nearly my favorite, but it's really consistently good. There's a lot of great songs on here. Weekend is still easily one of my favorite tracks from him. 100 Grandkids is great. Rush Hour, Time Flies, even the 2-part song Perfect Circle, Godspeed is just so good. The beats on here throughout the album are just so great. When in Rome's a great track. Ascension, really dig this album a whole hell of a lot. The festival's great. Yeah, really good follow up after Faces. It's an album that really just shows hey, I'm here to stay. But lo and behold, he actually kind of almost perfectly predicted his demise in the song Brand Name, which is one of the first songs on the album. and yeah, really just tragic stuff. Honestly, I mean, this was more of like a comeback after the real depressing like nature of Faces. I guess not depressing, but like the state of mind that he was in at that time for sure. Yeah, really solid album. I really liked it a lot. Next is Primitive Man. Home is where the hatred is. Really straightforward release for them, like really friggin' heavy and to the point. Not as like grueling in comparison to some of their other releases. I think this is actually considered an EP, considering how somewhat shorter it is than their other albums. But yeah, Primitive Man is just ungodly heavy, and this is just one other example of that. Moving on, we have the first album from the Prodigy, Experience. This shows like really humble beginnings. It's interesting to see like where they started. This was very much I guess you call this like the progenesis of the project, because the production doesn't really hold up today, but you can see like how ahead of the curve and before its time, and like how impactful just the sound of this album like really was, honestly. Like compared to other Prodigy like tracks and stuff that I've heard, because I actually haven't gone through full albums of theirs at all, and that's wanted to start somewhere. Of course, start with the first album. I like Out of Space and Everybody in the Place, but like most of the album's just really okay. Then I gave another listen to the newest one from Gorillaz, Cracker Island, and it's a solid album from front to back. The deluxe doesn't really add too much, but I mean there are good songs in here. Skinny Ape, New Gold's probably my favorite, of course. The title track too. But overall, this really pales in comparison to Song Machine Season 1, in my opinion. This album is kind of more in the vein of like the Now, more stripped back production, nothing too bold. Few and far between guests that don't play too much of a role, but it's not a bad album at all. Then we have Full of Hell with Amber Moat and the Black Vault. This album was here and gone like that. It's very, very brief, and they really don't waste that time at all. They fill in with like crazy riff after crazy riff, and it's definitely a very unforgiving listen. Then we have Fit for an Autopsy, The Great Collapse. Really, really solid album from front to back. Honestly, like these guys really put out quality deathcore. They like going through their albums like for the first time, and we're gonna get to more. They really come off as like a much better Thy Art Is Murder, a much more creative Thy Art Is Murder, in my opinion. Black Mammoth on this album completely slaps. Iron Moon is great. Really just solid front to back, like pretty much in every way. Like I really enjoy listening to this album, as well as others that we're going to get to. And then we have Defamed and their EP Aeon. These guys are friggin' awesome. I believe this is what was the remains of Drown in Sulphur, which was a great band, but apparently they had that name stolen from them, so this is like the rest of them putting out just an album that really friggin' slaps. It's heavy, it's really like metalcore, deathcore done right, like good balance, so just heavy riffs into breakdowns, killer vocals. Really dug this one a lot. Then I gave a listen to the Depression Sessions, 2016 outing that combined the likes of the Acacia Strain, Thy Art Is Murder, and Fit for an Autopsy. Each of them did an original, and each of them did a cover song, and it's really good. Honestly, like the originals are pretty good. The covers are pretty slapping. Honestly, Thy Art does Du Hast. Fit for an Autopsy does The Perfect Drug from Nine Inch Nails, good cover, and the Acacia Strain just does oh my god, like a scorching cover of Black Hole Sun. Really enjoyed this one. Then we have Moment of Truth and Cruelty, my bad, with The Beginning to the End. This is a split that just absolutely slaps. Moment of Truth is really just straight up hardcore, whereas Cruelty is very much just like slammy death metal slash hardcore. This is definitely a very brutal one for sure. Then we have a big album here. Deadmau5, While One Is Lesson 2. Give this a couple listens in March, and it's a very, very lengthy one for sure, but the quality is definitely there. More so in the first disc, I would say, which is where most of the actual house bangers are. Not all the songs on our house, like Somewhere Up There. No, Somewhere Up Here is the name of the song, which is easily one of my favorite Deadmau5 tracks. Avarisha is another great one. The remix of How to Destroy Angels, Ice Age, is really good. I love that remix of Death Ice Age. It's easily one of my favorite songs just ever, really. And yeah, Coelacanth, Phantoms Can't Hang, yeah, like disc one bangs. And disc two is where it gets like really, really experimental, and a lot of the songs are very, very hit or miss. There are quite a few tracks I don't care for. Nvidia comes to mind, but there's some good tracks too. Like the remix of Survivalism, really actually by Nine Inch Nails. It really actually helped me get into Nine Inch Nails, thankfully. Like because it's just such a great remix. It totally just deconstructs the song, whereas the original is very, very urgent and energetic. This one's very like sexy, and it sways. It's very slow and stripped back, and it's just a great contrast compared to the original. I love it. There's quite a lot of Nine Inch Nails worship on this album too, like very much Trent Reznor-esque piano ballads and like little pieces. But there are some other good like actual house tracks too, like banging tracks on this too. Mercedes is pretty good. Even tracks that aren't really house, like Errors in My Bread. And Pets is a really calm, like quirky track. Sia is easily one of my favorites. The album closer. Yeah, it's definitely a bit of a chore to get through, but there's definitely a lot here to like, for sure. Then, this might be the year that I get into Clutch, fellas, ladies, and gentlemen, the few of you that watch these. Psychic Warfare, many of which consider this one of their best albums. And so I gave it a listen, and it's solid. It rocks. Like, from front to back, it's great. I found pretty much like every song on here to be enjoyable, and I'm looking forward to like actually diving deep into their discography, which is extensive. So I got a brace for that. But yeah, this is really good. I love X-Ray Visions. I've known that song for quite some time now, and yeah, it just rocks. Really straightforward rock songs, and these guys are definitely underrated. That's for sure. Then we have the newest album from Suicide Silence. Remember, You Must Die. This is a pretty solid release for them, honestly. It's a big improvement from their last two albums, that's for sure. I would even say that this is the best album that they have put out with Eddie so far. Lots of really killer songs on here, honestly. Altar of Self comes to mind, Dying Life, The Third Death comes to mind as well. Really just solid, not too much like moments, I guess you could say. I was pleased with it, and I'm definitely going to be listening to it some more, for sure. Then I got into a really slammy mood. I went ahead and listened to Devourment's Molesting the Decapitated, and yeah, it's just relenting, just filthy, disgusting, low quality production, admittedly. Insane drumming, just slam after slam, same like bar riffs and power chord chugs and palm mutes on the first few frets, just done again and again. But I guess it plays in their favor. It's a very, very, very heavy album, without a doubt. And some more slam. We got a more modern one, Disentomb with Misery. And after some more heavy listens that I go through, Spotify will just start playing random like songs. Oh, you might like this, suggestion. And tracks from this album have come up enough to where like, okay, let me just dive into this, see what it's about. And it's pretty friggin' awesome. Like it takes kind of what Devourment does, but production's a bit more polished. Riffs are a bit more, I guess, exciting, as in like somewhat more dazzling, I guess. More so that comes in the form of the leads on this album. And I do remember enjoying it. It's very much a heavy friggin' album, without a doubt. Then we got this one. Been wanting to actually dive deep into Limp Bizkit's discography for a minute now. See what the hype's about, because I know like Westmoreland is very much praised when it comes to guitar and riffs and whatnot. And yeah, so I finally actually listened to $3 Bill, y'all, and it's pretty solid. It shows them from a very honest beginning, I guess you could say. Not too much stood out for me, but there's definitely enough like personality here. Heavy riffs mixed with Fred Durst rapping and all that. Counterfeit comes to mind as a pretty solid track. Faith is kind of funny in hindsight. The George Michael cover, but more than anything, at this point in the career, it shows a band with a whole lot of potential, and they blew up after this album was released with their follow-up. But yeah, we'll get to that point eventually. Moving on, the Acacia Strain with Grave Bloom. Solid, relentlessly heavy album for sure. Really brutal stuff. So there's a lot of Acacia Strain, Fit for an Autopsy, Full of Hell, and Primitive Man this month, because I saw all four of these bands all together on their tour. And my God, easily one of the most brutal shows I've ever been to. Acacia Strain's it was like the biggest local hardcore show you've ever seen. Just really relentless chugging, F-sharp riffs, and yeah, this album is literally just no slouch whatsoever, for sure. In fact, it was so heavy it wanted me to seek out some more heavy, so revisited Cryptopsy's None So Vile. And much like Devourment, like this one is very much slam heavy riff after slam heavy riff, and yeah, I can see how this, along with the Devourment album, like plays such a heavy role in influencing slam, like brutal death metal, and yeah, it really shows, because a lot of it did come from this, for sure. Then we have Primitive Man with Caustic. My God, dude, like this is very much a relentless listen, for sure. My Will and Victim are just, I can't even really describe how heavy Primitive Man is. Nonsensical power chords, just ringing out, chunky pong riffs, just beastly vocals. Yeah, and they were definitely a friggin' a thing to see live in person. It's very loud, very abrasive, without a doubt. Then finally gave a full album listen to Bullet for My Valentine's debut full length, The Poison, and yeah, it's very solid, very catchy, just straightforward metalcore. Definitely did a lot for the genre back in the day. Like this was, how could this album not blow up? Songs like Tears Don't Fall, Four Words, which is just a killer track. Or like one of my personal favorites, Suffocating Under Words of Sorrow, and Cries in Vain is a killer track too. This was definitely an enjoyable listen. Dug it quite a lot. Same goes for the second album from Avenged Sevenfold, Waking the Fallen. How is this album so damn good? Like, I don't get it, really though. I strongly recommend this one. Like seriously, if it's not Unholy Confessions, which is a staple, a mainstay, because of course, it's tracks like Desecrate Through Reverence, Second Heartbeat. Part 1 and 2 of I Won't See You Tonight. Pretty much like every single song on here absolutely slaps. Like it shows a very hungry band with a knack for lengthy, dazzling songs that are also very straightforward and heavy. And goddamn, I wish Matt Shadows would scream again, because it really brought so much just power to this album, for sure. Dug it quite a lot. Yeah, and we have Full of Hell with Trumpeting Ecstasy. Yeah, this is a very, very, very awesome album, for sure. Probably my favorite from Full of Hell. It absolutely slaps from front to back. A very heavy grindcore, very abrasive and unforgiving. Yeah, enjoyed it quite a lot, and to see a lot of this stuff brought to life live was just a sight to see, for sure. Love this one. It was great. And since we had the Aftershock announcements, and Guns N' Roses was one of the headliners, yeah, I took it upon myself, like, well, it's time to start listening to some of these bands that you're going to be going to see. And Guns N' Roses is not a band that I'm unfamiliar with. I actually love this album quite a bit. It's been a while since I give it a full listen, and yeah, it's like one of the most successful albums of all time. Like, and for good reason too. Like this was a refreshing drop in the 1980s when glam metal was starting to get a bit more, stale, and there wasn't as much in terms of attitude and no fucks given, and this album really brought that in spades. Like the debut here, like pretty much every single song is fantastic. Like of course you got the singles, Welcome to the Jungle, Paradise City, which I love, and Sweet Child of Mine, which I could never hear that song again and be completely fine. But Mr. Brownstone, It's So Easy, Night Train, You're Crazy, love those songs. My Michelle, yeah, I love what this album did, because it brought like an attitude to rock that was very much needed in the era of glam and fancy. It looks more than anything. Of course, like they brought the looks, but like it was different. It was a fresh take on the rock scene at the time, and how was it not going to blow up, for sure? Of course, strongly recommend. Like if you haven't heard this yet, you're missing out. Sure, it's one of the biggest albums of all time, but yeah, I mean there's a reason for that. Then got to listen to one of my favorite albums again. I threw on ISIS with their album Oceanic. I think it's their best album, honestly. I've talked about this before. I love going back to False Light. Just love the way these songs progress. I love the production. Love the riffs and just the spacey moments that just drag so beautifully, I guess you could say. Wait is another like super favorite of mine. Maritime is a nice little breather. From Sinking, this whole album front to back, like I strongly recommend, for sure. Also strongly recommend Palms, who are 3/5 of ISIS with Chino on vocals. I'm still so happy about this. I touched about it in the last video on for Listens of the Month. They put out 2 unreleased songs called Opening Titles and End Credits. And of course, I listened to this little duo of songs more than once in March and absolutely love it. Could not be happier. I really, 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 really hope they get together and make some music again, or release any other stuff that they've been working on, because I absolutely love it. Like, there's got to be more creative fuel in the tank, because like, just these songs alone show like still like so much potential for them, and especially if you got Chino on vocals and backup guitar, which I'm fairly certain he actually plays on this on these 2 songs, because I can tell like that guitar tone from anywhere on opening titles, like for sure, like that's Chino all the freaking way, because I don't think he actually contributed guitar on their full length album, just vocals. He played guitar live, but yeah. Anyway, I can go on and on about Palms. I love them to death. Strongly recommend. Then we got Carnival's first, I guess you could say, first EP, Persona. They did have a self-titled EP, but that one's very much like a demo instead, I would say. And this slaps, honestly. I love Fade. It's super heavy. Great song, great vocals. Headcase is a good track. I would say Some More of the Same is another highlight here for sure. Really a sign of the times too. It's very much new metal-ish, like quasi new metal. It came out 2001, but like it showed a band with a lot of potential, and eventually they went on to do just amazing, great things. Good EP, and God, an album I cannot recommend enough. Like, this is easily like top 10 albums of all time for me. A Perfect Circle, Stone and Echo. This is a live album that they recorded and performed and all that at the Red Rocks Amphitheater in Colorado, and for good reason too. Like just the natural acoustics bring like this natural reverb that's just gorgeous. I can literally talk about this album for friggin' days. Just the way that the venue carries a lot of these songs is just breathtaking in a sense, honestly. They don't actually play the songs as they're written in the studio sometimes. They do add a little bit of flair here and there, especially the emotive tracks, which are redone a little bit on this album, especially the very, very sexy and epic Counting Bodies Like Sheep to the Rhythm of the War Drums, which I've seen them play live, and just the constant strobe, like to the beat of the song. It was just orgasmic, without a friggin' doubt. And of course, other tracks, Rose, The Package. It opens up with Annihilation into Imagine, which is just beautiful. What's Going On, and just the reverb-soaked guitars, the leads that Billy does. It's just huge climaxes. Yeah, I could really go on and on about this. I will say, I've seen The Perfect Circle 3 times, and a really interesting thing I noticed was, so this album, the majority of the songs come from the Emotive album. They're anti-war peace songs, covers that they did their own renditions of. Most of those songs were on this album. First time I saw A Perfect Circle, most of the songs they played were actually from 13th Step, so I got to see them play Vanishing and A Stranger, and it was just amazing. And the second time I saw them was actually right before, well actually no, it was at Aftershock, and most of the songs they played that night were from Murder and Alms. And so I got to see Thomas play live, which was just so heavy. Oh my god, it was so good. And then the third time I saw them was a couple days before Eat the Elephant was released. So the majority of the songs they played that night were from Eat the Elephant. And yeah, just really, so I've got to see or at least hear many sides of A Perfect Circle. I love them to death. Like I said, I can talk about this album forever. Talk about this band forever. Opposite is the case for this one. Corey Taylor's solo project, first album, CMFT. I was expecting to hate this one. I was expecting not to like it as much, but it's not bad. A lot of it is very much, butt rock, like sort of dated, but there's a quality here to where there's a charm to it. It's very much more positive compared to Corey Taylor's other musical output. It's whimsical. It's got a charm to it, I guess you could say. Like I said, it's more positive, a bit more uplifting, a bit more straightforward, like rock. Not really made touches of metal here at all. Yeah, it's not bad. Interested to see how these songs will hold up live when he comes through to Aftershock. Then give a first time listen to Black Sabbath, and technical ecstasy. This is very much like a departure in sound for them at the time. Not really much here that I enjoyed. I mean, there are a couple good tracks, but this is very much like stale 70s radio rock more than anything, and I do not recommend this one. Didn't really get much out of it at all. Did get a whole bunch out of this though. Acacia Strain, Slow Decay, easily one of their best albums. Chinamasta just absolutely slays. Breed a Pigeon, or Feed a Pigeon, Breed a Rat. Lots of absolute just crushing, slow, sludgy, heavy, brutal stuff on here for sure. Really just unforgiving heaviness from them, like all around. And just to see them live as well as Fit for an Autopsy, and Full of Hell for that matter, was just remarkable. Because Sea of Tragic Beasts, I think, might be my favorite Fit for an Autopsy album. Of course, I'm going to revisit the whole thing, whole discography again. But this album absolutely slaps. I love the Sea of Tragic Beasts. Pretty much every single song on here is great. The timing of breakdowns versus riffs, and the way the songs progress, it's just so awesome. It's just so great. This is really like quintessential deathcore, like done right in my opinion. This is the stuff I'm into when it comes to deathcore for sure. Lots of great stuff. We have Full of Hell with Weeping Choir. Really a bit more of an interesting one. Like the contrast between more slower doomy songs and like straight up grindcore songs was really neat to hear. Really liked what I was hearing on this one. This one actually slapped for sure. Especially this one. This one might be my favorite Primitive Man release. Immersion. Oh my god. I was really, really into this one. Super heavy. Just, oh my god. Slow burning, riff heavy, and just brutally just cataclysmic, really can't describe it, honestly. It's great, honestly. Immersion's great. Alright, time to get into the St. Patrick's Day listens, which is, spoiler alert, all Flogging Molly. Anthem is their latest release, and I don't think this was nearly as good as Life is Good. But they're still, they still got some stuff in the tank. I got to actually see them play a couple of these songs live, including, and that was a year ago at this point. What's the song called? These Times Have Got Me Drinking. Yeah. It's definitely better than Speed of Darkness, I will say that much. But still, it does lack a little bit. It's a fine album, I'll say that. Following that, I listened to the debut album from Flogging Molly, Swagger. And I strongly recommend this one. I think this is the best Flogging Molly album, just from front to back. You want to know what Celtic punk sounds like? You want to know what Irish punk sounds like? Listen to this album. It's so good front to back. There's so many great tracks on here. Salty Dog, I think, is the quintessential Flogging Molly album. It just beats you over the head, but it's so happy to do so. Absolutely love it. Drinking songs for days. Selfish Man's a great song. Black Friday Rule is the other one. Devil's Dance Floor, easily one of my favorite Flogging Molly songs. I would say my favorite song on here is probably The Worst Day Since Yesterday. It's hard to say though, because Devil's Dance Floor and Salty Dog are so good. This whole album is so good. Check it out, strongly recommend. And we have Drunken Lullabies, arguably their biggest album, I would say, maybe because of how big of a hit Drunken Lullabies is, which they always open up their shows with, just to get it out of the way. I think this is more of a step back in song quality, I guess you could say, compared to Swagger. It's still not a bad album for sure. There's still a lot of good songs on here. What's Left of the Flag, If I Ever Leave This World Alive. But yeah, Drunken Lullabies is easily one of the best Flogging Molly songs. Albums, it's still good. It's still a good album. I think the follow-up, Within a Mile of Home, is much better in pretty much every way. This was one of the two albums that my dad owned because an ex of his got him into Flogging Molly. He had this and Floats, which I didn't get to this month, unfortunately. I kind of wanted to, but St. Patrick's Day was here and it was gone. Didn't even get to drink. Had to work. But yeah, I actually love this album quite a lot. Screaming at the Wailing Wall is such an intense, energetic opener for sure. Seven Deadly Sins is one of the biggest songs and best. Tobacco Island, Tomorrow Comes a Day Too Soon. I got to see them even play Whistles the Wind as a tribute to Taylor Hawkins from Foo Fighters. Because when I saw them a year ago at this point, the news had just dropped the night that they were playing when I saw them, that he had died. So they dedicated Whistles of the Wind out to Taylor Hawkins. And A really interesting thing too. The song on this, "With a Wonder and a Wild Desire," one of my favorites on here, was played by one of my in high school. Like one of my teachers I was actually an aide for. Would usually play music before class actually started, and Flogging Molly was one of them. And "With Wonder and Wild Desire" will always remind me of that because that song was the song that was actually being played. But yeah, great album. All right, so we have "Full of Hell," "Garden of Burning Apparitions," and yeah, just like "Weeping Choir" and "Trumpeting Ecstasy," really quality stuff here. Like seriously, you want like just relentless hardcore, grindcore. You got it with these guys in spades, like undoubtedly for sure. Really can't say much more about them than that. We do have their split with Primitive Man here. This is "Suffocating Hallucination," and yeah, it's like if you combine Primitive Man and "Full of Hell," honestly. Long, grueling songs, and also just like some really just heavy, riffy, crushing bangers for sure. Yeah, if anything, give this one a listen. Honestly, it's and then listen to Primitive Man's Immersion and Full of Hell's Trumpeting Ecstasy. You'll get an idea of what they're about. And the newest from Fit for an Autopsy, "Oh What the Future Holds." Yeah, this is a very, very solid album. I love the growth of this band in general. It showcases a more inclusion of cleans, more like clean guitar passages, and really pretty, I guess you could say, bridges that contrast like the heavy parts just remarkably. Like honestly, this is such a great band, and this is a really good album. I really like the album art too. Like you can see like half of her face is like a skull here. It's just beautiful art for sure. Then I got around to listening to the newest album from Ison, "Stars and Embers," and I need to give it a listen again. It's still not on streaming services. But damn, this is a really good album. Like honestly, I think I kind of like it more than Aurora, just by like a little bit. And yeah, it really harkens back to more like droney, like guitar-driven passages on a lot of songs here. But still like very mesmerizing, shoegazy, ambient, cosmic bliss that they're really known for. I love this band. I love it. It's a really great album. Definitely worth the wait. It's been teased for a minute now, and it's here, and it is glorious. Then we got Chelsea Grin with "Suffer in Heaven." This is the part 2 of "Suffer in Hell." I guess you could say, and this is so good. It's so heavy. I don't understand. This is I would say this is definitely better than "Suffer in Hell." This album. I mean, it's a breeze to get through. I think it's only like 26 minutes long. Like by the time it was over, I was like, it's done. I want more. It's just really friggin' good. Like production is killer. The breakdowns are catastrophically heavy. I mean, sure, this isn't the Chelsea Grin like I know and love that I grew up with, but to see them still grow upon the sound that they established with "Eternal Nightmare" is really good. And I'm actually like kind of surprised of how much more like I enjoyed this than "Suffer in Hell." But either way, I'm going to go re-listen to both rather soon. Not to mention, I'm going to go through the entire discography of them again. Then we got Blonde Redhead with "Fake Can Be Just As Good." Really a solid album front to back, honestly. I'm still very much enjoying going through these guys' discography. I think "Casualty" is a great song. Kicks off the album really good. And "Bipolar" is, of course, a great track as well. I actually saw that one performed live when they opened up for Tool. Yeah, really like this one. All right, we got Rush with "A Farewell to Kings." Finally getting a move on again with the Rush discography. Easily one of my longtime favorite bands. And yeah, "Xanadu" is easily one of the best Rush songs, without a question. And sure, "Closer to the Heart's a good track, but man, it just, especially "Xanadu," my goodness gracious. And of course, the title track, like to start it off, is fantastic as well. "Cygnus X1's really good too, but Xanadu, damn it. Just really great album. And checked out the latest from Amigo the Devil, "Born Against." I like this one. I think I liked it a bit more than "Everything Is Fine," honestly. It's got a really good blend of sounds, great songs here, really consistent. It's like everything really came together for this one. I mean, it pulls like the best elements from Volume 1 and the best elements from Everything Is Fine, and lots of great songs on here. "Murder in the Bingo Hall" comes to mind. "Another Man's Grave" too, and "Different Anymore," which I actually saw him play live, which was really good. "Different Anymore" is a great track. And we got this big mammoth of a friggin' album right here, Avenged Sevenfold, "City of Evil." I will say, I've listened to the first 4 tracks just countless countless times over the year. Like, those first 4 tracks are pretty much friggin' untouchable, as well as Seize the Day too, for that matter. But apart from that, I never actually dove into this album and like saw exactly what the whole thing was about. And it is very long. It does drag. It is a little long-winded. It is well written, especially those first 4 tracks. Like I said, they're very much untouchable. Great songs, as well as Seize the Day. And I mean, the rest of it is good. Like, there is quality to it, but a lot of it I don't really care for. I think Waking the Fallen is a better album overall, but it is easy to see how this album really like gave them a a huge boost in their career, because of tracks like Beast in the Harlot and Backcountry, which is a huge hit for them. But Burn It Down was actually the first Avenged Sevenfold song I ever heard. It was on the Headbangers Ball The Revenge compilation, which my dad owned. And Blinded in Chains was on Need for Speed Most Wanted. So, I've been familiarized with Avenged Sevenfold from a very young age, that's for sure. We got Merciful Fate in their first album, Melissa. Yeah, finally gave a listen to this, and it's great. It's unique, especially for 1983, just really unique falsetto vocals, King Diamond's calling card, really. And great riffs, great solos. Like, honestly, it's not hard to see what Metallica saw in these guys, especially this album, especially its songs. It's great, Evil and Satan's Fall, Curse of the Pharaohs. It's a very solid album. We got Judas Priest with Sad Wings of Destiny. Huge step up from Rock'n'Rolla, but it's still very much a subdued sound for them at this point in their career. I've noticed. Of course, this is a first time listening for me, and yeah, there are good tracks on here that I enjoy. The Ripper comes to mind. It's still very much, like I said, subdued rock-esque. Not much metal in their veins yet, but like it's definitely a sign of things to come for them, from what I can tell, and a huge step up from Rock'n'Rolla in every way. Iron Maiden and Power Slave. Of course, this is a highly regarded album, and I did very much enjoy it. Aces High is a fantastic song, a metal classic right there for sure. 2 Minutes to Midnight rocks as well. Lots of great songs on here. Power Slave, like the title track, is excellent as well, and the closing track, the big epic at the end, is really good as well. It's just me getting to move on with their discography, and it's a great album. Actually, maybe want to listen to Slayer Show No Mercy, and it shows like No Mercy. Like, it's very much, for 1983, this was a very big deal. Very fast, evil sounding songs, very ahead of their time, and re-listening to it gave me a newfound appreciation for it. Like, I love Die by the Sword. Love that track. Love Black Magic. It's easily one of my favorite Slayer songs. Riffs too, like in general, just great. Title track's great as well. Metal Storm Face the Slayer, which was on the Brutal Legend soundtrack. Love that game. Honestly, such a solid debut for them. Even though they go on to make even darker, heavier, more evil music in comparison, because this is very much Judas Priest, Merciful Fate worship, but still their own spin on it, and the solos are super wild, especially even for this early in their career. Great album. Not a great album. Exodus and Force of Habit. There are a lot of riffs that are actually like pretty damn solid on this album that I actually really enjoyed. But tracks like Bitch and Pump It Up are like, what are you guys doing? There's such a lack of quality in this album. I don't think they really knew what to do, like what direction to take. Like the album art's a mess, just like this album. It's very, very long. And of course, there are a few like actually really solid tracks on here that I did enjoy, that I thought were pretty heavy. But as an overall package, it's very much a head scratcher, and I do not recommend it. After that, we got Motorhead, Overkill. God, just real swanky, bluesy songs, real heavy stuff, and of course the title track, which is like, it gave birth to the double bass drums. Like it's great. It's a great album from front to back. Damage Case is a killer track, obviously. Like, there was really no bad songs on this at all. I very much enjoyed it. We got UKF Summer Drum and Bass. I believe this came out in 2015, and I think the reason why is because they just wanted an excuse to release 2 drum and bass compilations in the same year. And while I did enjoy quite a few songs on this, it was very hit and miss. I was thinking to myself, like, if this is supposed to be like more of like a summer themed release for them, It doesn't really sound like it because a lot of songs like that they chose to include on this compilation were a bit more subdued, were a bit more mopey. We're not as like, this isn't the stuff I want to hear at like a summer party, like on the beach or out in the sun. It didn't really give me that impression at all. So I mean, overall, like I don't recommend this one, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily bad. It's just yeah, I still understand like the summer aspect. They could have just said like, I mean, they could have named it something else if they wanted to release a second German-based compilation for 2015. Then we got a classic, Daft Punk's "Human After All." It's definitely their weakest release, I would say. Story behind this album is like they literally put it all together, like wrote it, recorded it, and all that in only 6 weeks. And it shows the quality's not really there. It's very much like to the point and repetitive, but not in like a really flattering way. But there are still like bangers on here. I love Robot Rock, even though like I said, a lot of songs on here are really, really repetitive. But Make Love has always been one of my favorite Daft Punk songs. Technologically is great. Television Rules, The Nation. But overall, like compared to Discovery and even Homework, this is very much not the best album. And even the marketing and the music videos around this time like really showed like the bleakness and like just how dismal like just being human was sometimes, or at least some humans are. It spoke for itself in a way. Then give another listen to Joe G's newest record, Smithereens. Still understand why this is a 2-disc thing. It's only like 24 minutes. But if anything, the first disc is where it shines. Love Glimpse of Us. Absolutely love Before the Day is Over and Die for You. And this also a great track too. The only song I really like on disc 2 is Yukon. Other than that, a lot of it is but either way, love Joji and love a lot of stuff that was on here. We got Run the Jewels 3. Run the Jewels 3. Really solid album. From front to back, really loved it. I mean, there are a couple tracks that are like but geez, like Stay Gold, Talk to Me is great. Legend Has It's pretty good. Call Ticketron is great. I think Hey Kids is a good track. 2100's a great track as well. Report to the Shareholders / Kill Your Masters. Yeah, just real straight up Run the Jewel stuff. Dig it quite a lot. It was great revisiting this one for sure. Same goes for Death Grips and No Love Deep Web. Like, talk about just slapping heavy bangers without a friggin' doubt. Couldn't find the normally censored version, so I had to censor it myself. If you want to know what it is, go ahead and look it up. But yeah, I really love this album. Some of their best songs on here, Come Up and Get Me, absolutely just devastatingly heavy. It's just the beats on this are crazy. No Love as well is another one. Love World of Dogs. Whammy is great. Love Hunger Games too. Just insanely freaking like creative. Like I can listen to some of these sounds like all freaking day. Black Dice is a great song. Stockton, Artificial Death in the West. Bass Round Stars Up the Sky. Yeah, really great, solid album from them. And oh boy, we actually finally got an album from them. Cascade and Deadmau5, aka KX5, coming together on a compilation album that they put out this month, and I love it. I really love a lot of the tracks on here. Of course, Escape was one of my most played songs on Spotify in 2022, and Take Me High is another great song. They really crafted some real danceable friggin' like festival songs here. Like they're just perfect vibes for dropping at a fest or a show. Alive is great. Eat Sleep is a great song. Avalanche, they really did something special with this one for sure. And we got Crowbar's follow-up to Sonic Excess in its purest form, Life's Blood for the Downtrodden. And yeah, this album slaps. Like, it's got a great bass tone a la Rex Brown of Pantera fame. And really solid, great riffs just throughout this. It's just grueling and just pummeling. Just great songs overall. New Dawn is great. Coming Down and Fall Back to Zero might be my favorite songs on the album. It's Crowbar. Really enjoyed the album as a whole for sure. Same goes for Black Dahlia Murder and Nightbringers. Yeah, a huge step up from Abysmal in every way, in my opinion. Some of their best songs on here, Widowmaker, the title track, God and Serpent, Spectre and Snake, Catacomb Hecatomb. A lot of, front to back. I actually got to see this entire album played front to back when these guys toured with Whitechapel back in 2018, and that was pretty cool to see, honestly. Only time I got to see them, and that was still with Trevor, rest in peace. And Whitechapel was also playing This Is Exile from front to back on that tour. So yeah, really good album, honestly. And then Miss Kristen Hayter with Lingua Ignota's project, Caligula. I really can't get over how incredible this album is, honestly. I won't get too much into like the details of it, but let's just say the vocals and the lyrics are absolutely amazing and incredible. Definitely not for the faint of heart. Like, this is not for everybody. I touched on this in January, my January video, because I listened to it back then too. But really though, some really tough subjects here, but still the performances and some of the production, it just incredible. Faithful servant, friend of Christ. Very, very solid opener. Like, sets the tone for the album. Do You Doubt Me, Traitor? Still, like, I still can't get over like those screams and how just incredible those multi-layered vocal harmonies near the end are. Just the emotion that's conveyed is just indescribable sometimes. Butcher of the World is brutal. I think my favorite track, like overall, which is really hard to say, but Fragrant is my mini flower crown. Just the vocals, just for days. I can go on and on and on. Give this album a listen. I strongly recommend it. Then gave this one a listen for the first time in like 10 years. Like, I mean, it's about time I get to move on with their discography, because I'm going back through it again. And such quality. Fear Factory and Archetype. One of only 2 albums without Dino Cazares, and this is really, really quality stuff. Like, from front to back, there's really no bad songs on here at all. Like, I loved the shit out of this album. Cyber Waste is a long time, like, been a song that I went back to pretty often from this album, but it's been a while since, like I said, it's been like 10 years since I actually listened to the whole thing front to back. I would say it's easily one of their best, like, yet, for sure, without a doubt. Like, it's so good. Then I gave a listen to Testament's Souls of Black, and you know, the title track and the Legacy, easily some of their best songs. Like, this was a first time listen for me, and it's really solid front to back. Like, it's probably not my favorite so far, but I really did like a whole lot of what I was hearing. The leads are insanely good. Like, some great riffs throughout. Vocals just kill it, just carry the songs. Yeah, looking forward to moving forward with the rest. All right, last row. Loathe put out a little EP with Audio Tree, who have done EPs with Primitive Man and Ecstasy, which is really interesting. So it's just like a little 3-song snippet of live performed music that they did here, and it slaps. You know, they played my 3 favorite songs off of I Let It In and It Took Everything: Screaming, New Faces in the Dark, and Gourd. And yeah, they just bring it. It kills, honestly. Love it. Love these songs. Love these guys. Love the album that they chose the songs from. And yeah, check it out. Check this one out too. I really, really, really enjoyed this album. Soulfly, Dark Ages. My God, now this is like an album. This is like, it is relentless. It is heavy. It is like, I gotta strongly recommend this one, honestly, especially if you're a metal fan. Literally, riffs for days. The songs are absolutely awesome. It is a lengthy one, but it's diverse enough to where it's like, it doesn't grow stale, and the songwriting is quality enough to where like you're pretty much engaged the whole time. The last 2 tracks are the longest, and they're the more stripped back, like tribal, like instrumental pieces, like more percussive, a lot of acoustic guitar, flamenca even. It's but the rest of it is just so brutal, just so heavy, like angry and aggressive, and like it's so great to hear Max Cavalera sound like this. This is probably my favorite Soulfly album so far, going through the discography. It's so great. After that, give a first-time listen to Lingua Ignota's album Sinner Get Ready. One thing I noticed about this album, there's no screaming on it like on Caligula, so it's a lot more, the focus is on the production and like just like the overall vibe of like I guess these songs are more like set pieces. It's more visual. It's crazy how well pieced together the production is here. And of course, the vocals and the lyrics are top notch and like just indescribably good. Honestly, still need to give it another listen. This is my only time listening to it, but man, it was so good. Look forward to revisiting it. Gave this a first time listen to. Cynic with Focus. Yeah, it's like if you combine, I guess, death with Opeth, but like add jazz fusion to it. But this predates Opeth, like anything that Opeth released. So like I think this definitely influenced them quite a bit. But like in between like the little jazz pieces are some real like brutal technical death metal, but also like really epic passages that kind of remind me of like a later era Gojira, I guess you could say, especially some of the clean vocals. Really dug this. I can see how this is like a highly regarded prog metal album, like or like progressive death metal in general, like for sure. I dug this one quite a lot. Then I don't even have to like really say much about this one other than strongly recommend. Ferocious album. I wish the production was touched up quite a bit because there's a bunch of high end and it kind of like washes out a lot of the instruments, like kind of like static during some sequences, some sections of the songs. But other than that, holy crap, holy goddamn, like seriously, just from Velvet Kevorkian straight into All Hail the New Flesh. Brutal. Just set the entire world ablaze. And there's still such a catchiness to this album too. The songs here, "Oh My Fucking God" is a great track. "Detox," "Home Nucleonics." Just the riffs here are just blistering and just heavy, chunky, fast. Extreme describes this album. Really though, like it. Words can barely even describe like how great it is. Then I gave a listen to Fleetwood Mac's "The Dance." I adore this album. Strongly recommend this one as well. It really it says so much. Like honestly, like I can go over like the whole story behind. I will. Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks broke up during the making of their album Rumors, which is one of the biggest albums ever made of all time by far. Same goes for John and Chrissy McVie. They were separated. They separated back then, as well as Big Fleetwood and his wife at the time. And at the end of Temporary One, Lindsey Buckingham actually touches on it a little bit. He wanted Big Fleetwood to play drums on his solo album, and all of a sudden, the whole band was basically back together and in the studio, and they're like, "Hey, this feels good." And they were actually able to stand on stage together and perform beautiful songs. Some of the best songs ever written in history, by far. But of course, it wasn't just them. Like, it was a whole stage production. I still need to watch the entire DVD, honestly. They filmed the entire thing with some extra songs. Not every song that they performed at that concert is on this CD. Album, within 120 minutes. No, not I mean, 80 minutes. 80 minutes is how long a CD lasts. But yeah, there were backup singers and guitarists helping with instrumentation. And of course, the USC marching band that comes on closer to the end of the album. Just the production on this album is stellar. The performances are great. Like just the chain alone, the way it starts off, and how it's in a lower key. It's just great. It's so great. I'm So Afraid is one of my favorites on here. Dreams comes to life. It's Bleed to Love Her is another beautiful one. Landslide. My God, just the love and pure emotion radiating from this performance, and like just listen to Silver Springs. Like if anything, listen to Silver Springs. If anything, watch the live version and how like Stevie Nicks is just like singing it straight at Lindsey Buckingham. Like you'll feel things for sure. Love this album to death. Then Puscifer did a rewired version, as they put it, of their album Existential Reckoning. They've been on a roll with releasing live renditions and of older songs, and a little over 2 years later, and we get them basically reaching out to other artists, or other artists reaching out to them to do different renditions of each song off of Existential Reckoning, and it's pretty good. Like I enjoyed few songs in here quite a lot. Some other ones were really hit and miss. What really stood out to me was the 11-minute version of Apocalyptical, done by no other than Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. Another one that really stood out to me was Bedlamite, and how like they I forget who it was that did a rendition of it, made it like just a solid heavy rocker, like more than anything. But Postulus is another one. I think Fantagram does that one. Just the driving synth like heavy beat like that's panned. It's really good. It's not a bad album at all. I enjoyed listening to this quite a lot. I mean, give me Puscifer anything, obviously. Eventually, like pretty much everything they've done will be reviewed. And last one for the month is Filter with Title of Record. I enjoyed this one quite a lot more than Short Bus. I will say that for sure. Take a Picture is one of my favorite songs in the world. It does like stand out a bit from the rest of the tracks, as well as Skinny, which I guess was used to like cushion Take a Picture as the track list progressed. But the first few songs are like really heavy, like guitar heavy, and just straight up rocking for sure. Welcome to Fold's a great track. It's Gonna Kill Me is good. The Best Things, I'm Not the Only One. Yeah, no, it was a good listen, for sure. It's just a shame that they're not going to be at Aftershock this year like I was almost certain they would be. But yeah, that is the month of March, for sure. Made myself even smaller so we can just get a little look of everything here. Yeah, that's it, for sure. Thank you for watching. I know this was a bit more of a lengthy one than it usually is. I actually listened to quite a lot in March. So, have you listened to these albums? Let me know what you think of them down in the comments. Leave a like, please, too, as well. If you're not subscribed already, what the heck, man? What are you doing? You're slacking. I'll see you guys in the next one. Or not, it just doesn't matter. As long as you enjoy.